We are starting with some work on page 692. You will want to find that in your book and be ready to pause and resume as we go through some of these problems. You'll also notice that I have some sticky notes on here in order to give myself enough of space. Sticky notes or notebook paper is going to be very important when we are subtracting with fractions, because it takes up so much space to do each step clearly. Number 14 then is the difference, so difference means subtracting, in length, this is showing us length, between the monarch butterfly and the bumblebee. Monarch butterfly and the bumblebee, is that greater or less than the difference in length between the walking stick and the grasshopper? Now, you could eyeball this and say 3 1/2, which is my monarch, minus 5/8, which is the bumblebee, will come out to be a little less than 3. Whereas the walking stick, which is 4, and take away the grasshopper, which is 1 3/4, this will have to be borrowed. 3 minus 2, this will still come out to be 2 and some fraction. So eyeballing it doesn't really work very well, which is why I have scrap paper. I need to see which of these answers, the monarch and the bumblebee, or the walking stick and the grasshopper, which one of these is going to be a larger amount. Steps to do this. First step, I want to get common denominators. I want my pieces to be the same size so that when I borrow, I don't have to do any more work on the fraction. I can turn halves into eighths by multiplying. So this will be times 4 and times 4, which means I'm going to bring over the 3. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 4/8 to take away 5/8. So this is my second step. I can ignore my beginning. Now I say if I have 4/8, can I take away 5/8? Unfortunately, I can't. I need to borrow. 3 whole items become 2. I bring over 8/8 to join the 4/8 that were already there. Meaning I still have 2 whole items, but now I'm going to call this 12/8. Subtract the 5/8 from that, and I'm done with this step. Now, if my pieces are eighths, I am going to keep them eighths. 12 take away 5 of those pieces, there will be 7 of those pieces. 2 whole items take away nothing, will be 2 whole items. So 2 7/8 inches if I subtract my monarch and my bee. So this is the difference between the monarch and the bumblebee. What about the difference between the walking stick and the grasshopper? Well, this one's a bit easier because I don't have any fourths here. I just turn this into 3 whole things and bring over 4/4. I'm still going to rewrite this. 3 4/4 take away 1 3/4. That way I don't get mixed up in my numbers. My pieces are fourths, I'm going to keep them fourths. I have 4 of those pieces and I'm taking away 3, which means I'm left with 1 of those 4 pieces. 3 take away 2 is 2. Now here's the problem again. I have 2 2 1/4 and 2 7/8. I'm still not sure about the sizes of the pieces. Which is larger? Well, I'm going to have to look at this as 2 2/8. Now I can see my larger answer is my monarch minus my bumblebee. 2 7/8 is larger than 2 2/8. There went the lights. Hello, lights. Come on. There we go. So, my answer to the question is the greater difference is the monarch minus the bumblebee. It says explain your reasoning. Here's my reasoning. My work is my reasoning. Number 15, find the difference in length between a walking stick and a bumblebee. So 15, I need to do, walking stick is 4, bumblebee is 5/8. Difference means subtract 4 minus 5/8. I have no whole number here. I have no eighths over here. So if I have no eighths, I can't take 5/8 away until I borrow. This becomes 3 whole items. I bring over 8/8 because I want to keep the pieces the same and not do any more work than I have to. My new problem is 3 8/8. Take away 5/8. No whole amounts. I can get rid of that work. And now I can subtract. 8 minus 5 is 3. I keep the pieces the same. They're all eighths because it takes 8 of them to make a whole thing. 3 minus 0 is 3. I will need a label. This is 3 3/8 of a what? Well, it's talking about the length. The length is measured in inches. 16. Arlo has 5 gallons of paint. He used 2 5/8, so he's going to take this amount away. How much paint is left? 5 gallons minus 2 5/8 of a gallon. Borrow from my 5, it becomes 4. I only had 0/8 to begin with. I bring over all 8/8 from this whole item. My new problem is 4 8/8. Take away 2 5/8. Why did I pick eighths to bring it over as? So that I don't have to change the size of my pieces. Don't have to get a common denominator. I already bring it over with the same size. 8/8. Take away 5/8 leaves me with 3/8. 4 take away 2 is 2. 2 3/8 of a gallon. I want to throw one other idea at you as soon as I find my sticky note that has it. Here we go. Just because we are refreshing what it means to, or just because we are working with what it means to subtract and borrow with fractions, doesn't mean we can forget about what it would be to add them. So, practice problem. What is the total length of a monarch and a grasshopper? So, we'd have to take 3 1/2. When we ask for the total, that means we will add 1 3/4. Here, I want you to copy down just the numbers here and pause to get your answer. Resume because I am going to show you the answer, and hopefully you came up with the same thing. First of all, I need a common denominator. I'm going to multiply so that the 2 turns into a 4. I will have 3 2/4, adding to that 1 3/4. Now that the pieces are the same size, 2/4 plus 3/4 gives me 5/4. 3 plus 1 gives me 4. I wrote 5/5. I meant 5/4. I cannot stop here, though. I must change 5/4 into a mixed number. How many whole items can I get out of 5/4? Well, if I take my 5 and divide it into fourths, I can get 1 whole item out of there. So I substitute 1. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract. I have 1 out of 4 pieces left. This substitutes in for 5/4, but I still need the 4 that was there. My final answer is 5 1/4 inches. Hopefully you came up with that answer. After that review, we are going back to subtracting and borrowing. That is what you are practicing independently today. I have just flipped the page back to 691. If this does not give you enough of space to do the work on the paper, absolutely feel free to do each problem on its own piece of paper. Just be sure that your numbers show me. Now, what I want to do is look through 2, 3, and 4 with you, because you don't just have to worry about borrowing, you also have to worry about getting common denominators. Not so much for number 2. Eighths, all you will need to do at number 2 is borrow. However, number 3, you can't take thirds away from sixths. You don't know if you need to borrow yet. You must get a common denominator. So the next thing you get is 3 1/6. Take away 1 2/6. Now you see that you need to borrow. There's more work to do before you solve this. Number 5. I know I said I was going to show you 4, but you can find that common denominator quite easily yourself. Number 5, the reason I want to show you this, you can't turn a 2 into a 5 by multiplying, so you are going to need to use the other denominator and change both fractions. Meaning, you end up with 7 whole items and 5/10, and take away 3 whole items and 8/10. Can you take 8 away from 5? No, you can't, so you will need to borrow for number 5. 6 and 7, it's kind of nice. It harkens back to what we did earlier this week, where you borrow from the whole number and you just get a whole number and another fraction. Make sure you start out with the same sized pieces as the fraction that's already there, and it will be a few steps easier. Be sure that you also check that these final answers are in simplest form. There are many, many steps, which is why your graded assignment today is only to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Be sure that you have shown me every step. Be sure that your final answer is circled, so your steps should look a lot like my steps back here on 392. Cross out the steps that you finish with. Make sure the final answers are circled. You don't need to worry about labeling on 391. That's good news. But your graded assignment is page 691. I'm sorry. Your graded assignment is page 691, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would be a good idea to do the online practice first, so it tells you whether or not you are doing things correctly, but then send me this graded assignment when you have done a bit of online practice with the link.